Hey everyone, and welcome back to Empower Your English.
It's great to be back with you all again.
We're all about bringing you those ideas, those concepts, those frameworks, really, that can help you grow as a person,
Right.
find a little more peace of mind, and hey, improve your English along the way.
That's it.
And today we're diving deep into something super fundamental to how we connect as human beings.
Okay.
We're talking about empathy.
I like it.
So we'll be looking at what it really means, how it shapes our relationships.
Yeah.
And we'll be exploring a really powerful real-world example
A real-world example.
of empathy in action.
I love it. I think this is going to be a fascinating journey, actually.
I think so, too.
Because we're going to look at empathy not just as this nice idea,
Right?
but as a genuine force for positive change in the world.
Yeah.
And for all of you listening out there,
Yes,
understanding empathy is so incredibly valuable.
I agree.
It's a key to unlocking deeper connections with the people around you, building stronger, more rewarding relationships. That's right. And it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter what your current situation is.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it as a superpower for your social life and your own inner peace.
I love that. I love that. A superpower.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to really get a grasp on empathy in action, we're going to be focusing on the inspiring story of Malala Yousafzai.
Great choice.
Now, you've probably heard her name before. She's that incredible Pakistani activist who stood up for girls' right to education. But her story isn't just about bravery.
No.
It's a profound illustration of empathy in its purest form.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what's particularly interesting, I think, to consider
Right.
is how the environment that Malala grew up in likely fostered such a strong sense of empathy in her. So she was born in 1997 in Mingora in Pakistan's Swat Valley.
Okay.
And she experienced firsthand a society where opportunities for women, especially in education, were very limited.
You really have to picture that for a moment, right?
Yeah, put yourself in her shoes.
Yeah. Growing up with those kinds of restrictions on what you can learn and achieve, it must have created such a strong awareness of inequality.
Yeah.
A real understanding of what it feels like to be denied something so fundamental.
Absolutely. And I think another crucial element was her father, Ziauddin Yousafzai.
Okay.
Now, he was an educator himself and a passionate activist. And he founded a school
Wow.
which crucially provided Malala with access to education from a very young age.
So she had the benefit of being able to learn.
Yeah, she had that privilege.
While others were being denied that same opportunity.
And witnessing that contrast that you talked about, I think must have been incredibly powerful for her.
It's that personal experience alongside witnessing the struggles of others, right?
Yeah.
That's such a powerful combination for developing empathy.
Absolutely. And as the Taliban began to exert more control over the Swat Valley, Malala's deep love for learning and her advocacy for girls' education didn't diminish. And in fact, it seemed to grow stronger. So this early exposure to injustice, coupled with her own passion for knowledge, really laid the foundation for her profound empathy for those girls facing those educational barriers.
It's incredible to think that someone so young could feel such a strong connection to an issue affecting so many others.
Yeah.
So how did this early empathy then translate into her becoming this global voice for change? What were some of the steps she took?
Okay, well, in 2009, at the age of 11,
11 years old.
Malala took a very, very courageous step. She began writing an anonymous blog for BBC Urdu under the pen name Gul Makai.
Wow, 11 years old. That's pretty incredible.
It is, and Gul Makai means cornflower in Pashto, which is a really nice image.
It is a beautiful image.
But what's so fascinating here is that through this blog, she gave a very personal account of her daily life under Taliban rule. She wrote about the restrictions being imposed, particularly on girls, including the closure of schools.
Wow.
So it's this direct, unfiltered look at their lived experiences.
Yeah, you can almost feel what it must have been like to read her words.
Exactly.
Oh, so she wasn't just hearing about these things secondhand. She was living them.
Yeah.
And then bravely sharing these very real experiences with the world. That act of bearing witness is so powerful.
Yes. And her blog became this platform to speak out against the violence, the oppression, and the discrimination against women and girls.
It did.
She became a voice for those who had been silenced,
Yeah.
articulating the fears and hopes of so many in her community. And that act itself, writing that blog, fully aware of the potential dangers,
Right.
that really highlights empathy in action.
It does.
Putting herself at risk to share the stories of others,
Yeah.
to bring their plight to light. It demonstrated empathy on a really grand scale.
It really did.
Because she wasn't just understanding their struggles, she was actively amplifying them,
Yeah,
making sure that the world couldn't ignore what was happening.
that's right.
And her courageous stance and her calls for international intervention to safeguard girls' right to education, sadly but perhaps inevitably made her a target.
And tragically, we know that threat became a reality.
It did.
The Taliban's influence in the Swat Valley became increasingly oppressive after 2007, and their extreme interpretations of religious rules had a devastating impact on women's access to education.
Their strict decrees led to the closure of numerous girls' schools,
It's unbelievable.
creating this climate of intense fear
Yeah.
and denying countless young women their fundamental right to learn and build a future for themselves.
And then that horrific attack on October 9th, 2012.
Yes.
Malala was on her school bus,
Just on her way home.
simply on her way home from school.
Yeah.
And she was deliberately targeted in this brutal act of violence.
A shocking assassination attempt.
It was.
A Taliban gunman boarded the bus and shot Malala in the head.
It's almost impossible to comprehend the shock and anger that rippled through the world.
Yeah, the news of this attack sent waves of horror and outrage around the globe.
That a young girl could be targeted simply for wanting an education.
It defies belief.
It defies belief.
The global response was immediate and powerful.
It was.
And Malala's emergency medical treatment, first in Pakistan and then in the UK, became a focal point of international concern and support.
It did.
And, her survival, frankly, was remarkable.
It really was. And her recovery, it wasn't just a physical healing, was it? It demonstrated incredible inner strength.
Resilience.
Yeah, resilience. That's truly awe-inspiring.
Indeed. And here's where it gets really interesting when we circle back to empathy.
Okay.
This profoundly traumatic experience, instead of silencing her voice or making her withdraw, actually seemed to fuel her activism even further.
It's almost counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd expect someone to retreat after such trauma.
Yeah, you'd think they'd want to hide.
But instead, it seems to have amplified her commitment.
Yeah.
It was as if her own suffering deepened her already significant empathy for other girls facing similar, though perhaps less visible, challenges. What do you make of that incredible resilience?
It speaks volumes about the depth of her empathy.
I think so too.
That her own pain didn't overshadow the pain of others. If anything, it strengthened her resolve to help them.
Following her recovery, Malala channeled her experience and her unwavering empathy into even greater action on a global scale.
She did.
And in 2013, she published her autobiography, I Am Malala,
Right.
which became an international bestseller, sharing her powerful message with millions around the world.
And that book had such a profound impact. It wasn't just her personal story.
No.
It was a powerful call to action.
Yeah. And advocating for policy changes at the highest international levels.
It's incredible.
And then in 2014, at the remarkably young age of 17, Malala Yousafzai was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize,
Wow.
the youngest laureate in history.
A truly incredible achievement and a powerful recognition of the global impact of her tireless work and her commitment to her cause.
And her Nobel acceptance speech was so powerful.
It really was.
She didn't focus on her personal ordeal, but instead emphasized education as this fundamental tool
Yes.
for eradicating poverty,
Right.
promoting peace.
And achieving true gender equality.
It was empathy translated into a powerful vision for a more just and equitable world.
So that Nobel Prize wasn't just a personal honor.
No, it wasn't.
It was a global acknowledgement of the profound empathy that has driven her actions and the positive change she's inspired worldwide.
Precisely, and her commitment has remained steadfast.
It has.
She continues to work tirelessly with the Malala Fund
Yes.
and remains a powerful and respected voice on international platforms like the United Nations.
She's become a true global advocate, speaking out not only on the importance of education, but also on broader issues like human rights, gender equality, and the fight against poverty.
And her activism has yielded tangible results.
It has.
There have been positive shifts in education policies in Pakistan and in other nations, directly influenced by her advocacy and the work of the Malala Fund.
And the awards and recognition continue to come her way, further solidifying her status as a global symbol of hope and resilience. It's also worth noting that amidst all this work, she prioritized her own education, graduating from the University of Oxford in 2020 with a degree in philosophy, politics, and economics.
Wow.
It really underscores her deep belief in the power of learning.
It demonstrates a profound and long-term commitment driven by her deep empathy and a clear understanding of how education empowers individuals and societies to progress.
So we've explored this incredible example of how empathy can fuel massive global impact. But for us as individuals, how can we actively cultivate more empathy in our own daily lives?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
It is. How can we draw inspiration from Malala's story and apply it to our own relationships and interactions?
Well, our sources offer some practical steps.
Well.
One key element is active listening.
Right.
Now, what does that really mean?
Ah,
It's about fully concentrating on what someone else is saying,
yeah.
giving them your complete attention without interrupting or jumping to conclusions.
It's more than just hearing the words.
Yeah.
It's about truly being present in the conversation, showing that you genuinely value their thoughts and their emotions.
Making eye contact, nodding, really focusing on what they're trying to communicate, not just waiting for your turn to speak.
Right. It's about creating a space where the other person feels truly heard.
Yeah, and understood.
Understood.
A second vital step is stepping into someone else's shoes.
Right?
Try to imagine yourself in their situation.
Yeah.
How would you genuinely feel? What might their perspective be? This simple exercise of trying to see things from their point of view can be so powerful in building understanding and empathy.
It's about consciously trying to see the world from their unique vantage point.
Yeah.
Even if you don't agree with their opinions or their choices.
Yeah,
It's about putting aside your own assumptions for a moment.
precisely. And the third key step is showing compassion.
Okay.
This is essentially empathy in action.
Right.
It's not just about understanding someone's pain or their struggle. It's about being moved by it and wanting to do something about it, even if it's just a small gesture of kindness or offering your support.
So it's taking that feeling of empathy and translating it into tangible actions.
That can make a positive difference in someone's life.
No matter how small, right?
Exactly.
A listening ear, a helping hand, a word of encouragement.
These can all be powerful expressions of compassion.
They can be.
Whether it's offering a listening ear without judgment, providing practical help, or simply being present for someone in a difficult moment. Compassion strengthens our connections and vividly demonstrates our empathy.
And as you're listening to us right now, take a moment to reflect on your own relationships. Where in your daily interactions could you more consciously apply these steps?
Yeah. Is there someone in your life who you could listen to more attentively? Someone whose perspective you could try to understand more deeply?
Yeah.
Consider how even small, deliberate efforts to practice active listening, to step into another person's shoes, and to show genuine compassion
Right.
could significantly improve your interactions and strengthen your bonds with others.
Right.
Empathy isn't just a passive feeling.
It's not.
It's an active choice that builds bridges between people.
It does. What are some small ways you think our listeners could start practicing this today?
Well, I think even just making a conscious effort in your next conversation to really focus on what the other person is saying without thinking about your response is a great starting point.
It is a great starting point.
And maybe later take a moment to think about a recent interaction where someone might have been feeling something you didn't fully grasp at the time,
Yeah.
and try to see it from their perspective now.
I love that.
Now, to help solidify these important concepts and to tie in the English learning aspect of our podcast,
Right.
let's look at some key vocabulary highlighted in our sources.
Okay, great.
The first, of course, is empathy itself,
Okay.
which is defined as the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. For example, we can say, Malala showed great empathy by standing up for the education of girls everywhere.
Then we have active listening, which, as we've discussed, is listening attentively without interrupting. A good example of its use could be, in order to build strong and healthy relationships, we must actively practice active listening.
And finally, we have compassion.
Okay.
The feeling of wanting to help someone who is suffering. The example provided is, compassion is the foundation of empathy. It's about taking action based on what we feel.
The sources also offer some nice reflections on these terms
They do.
regarding empathy.
Okay.
It notes that empathy allows us to understand others on a deeper level and connect with them on a truly human level.
Yeah, that really resonates, doesn't it?
It does.
And on active listening,
Yes.
the reflection highlights that active listening helps you to fully understand someone's thoughts and feelings without the distractions of your own internal monologue.
That's a key point.
Getting out of your own head.
Getting out of your own head.
And then finally, compassion.
Yeah.
It's beautifully put. Compassion is empathy in action. It's not just about understanding someone's struggles, it's about being moved to help.
I love that.
So as we begin to wrap up this deep dive, let's remember Malala's powerful and ongoing journey.
Yes.
Her life stands as a remarkable example of how empathy, even when faced with immense adversity and danger, can drive significant and lasting positive change on a global scale.
Her story is such a potent reminder that empathy isn't just a personal virtue.
No, it's not.
It's a powerful force that has the potential to shape a better, more understanding and more compassionate world for all of us.
And we encourage you, our listener,
Yes.
to actively seek out opportunities to practice and cultivate empathy in your own life, in your daily interactions, both big and small.
That's right.
Remember that even seemingly minor acts of understanding and genuine compassion can create positive ripples that extend far beyond your immediate circle.
Absolutely. And we would love for you to consider how you can bring more empathy into your relationships and maybe even share your own experiences with us.
Yeah. Have you witnessed the power of empathy firsthand?
Right.
How has cultivating it made a difference in your life or the lives of those around you?
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
It's a truly thought-provoking idea.
It is.
That empathy isn't just a soft skill. It's a fundamental human strength that connects us and holds incredible power to foster a more understanding, peaceful, and ultimately more fulfilling world for everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us today on this deep dive into the vital power of empathy. Stay empathetic, stay connected, and keep growing in your understanding of the world and your journey with the English language. Until next time.
See you then.